All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for choosing me over the competition. My name is Inbar. I run the malware and security research at Checkpoint. And what I'm going to be telling you today about is what we do in the security research. This is the stuff we do to pretty much make the world a better place. That's a non-revenue generating part of my job. And the reason we do that, today the market does not penalize you if you create a bad product. If there's a security problem with it, no one's going to stop using it. Okay? In fact, people are fighting to get XP still supported, even though that has a very big number of vulnerabilities discovered. So the only way to fix that is actually twist the arm of the vendor, because the programmer that fixes yesterday's bug doesn't write tomorrow's bug. So the way to do that is by filing a responsible disclosure. That's going to the vendor, letting them know we found something in their product. We cooperate with them. This is not coercion. This is not a threat. We come as friends. But the way our leverage is to say, we're going to educate the public eventually. Why? Because the public needs to make an informed decision. You want to know that if, for example, there's a problem with Chrome, then until they fix it, you're going to use Internet Explorer, or the other way around. And the time that we give for the vendor to deal with that depends on the complexity of fixing the problem. If it's their website, they can do it within a day. If it's a device that's deployed in various locations, that can take a few months, right? And after we do that, then we go to full disclosure. We let the public know. Now, sometimes we will put in a proof of concept, but many times we won't, because that would be weaponizing the bad people. They're going to use that to attack the people that haven't patched or dealt with that or haven't been informed. Now, I'm going to be giving you a few examples today of something that gets overlooked most of the time. Everybody's talking about internet, about hacking. We just had a great presentation about penetration testing, posing as malware, using tactics. This is something completely different. First example, today when you go to the cinema, you buy the ticket online, you choose your seat, everything is great, and then you just show up and you see this device. You swipe your card. A credit card reader will always attract my attention, remember that. And that pretty much prints the ticket. That's all it does. So it has a touch screen. You can actually buy a ticket. You can choose the seat. It has a printer and a credit card reader and nothing else. There are no peripherals, no interface, no Bluetooth, nothing. So theoretically, it's hardened. Okay? But let's look at this example. Now, this one is from Israel, so it's in Hebrew. But don't mind the Hebrew. The one thing you need to notice is that the menu bar was not removed from the interface. Now, that shouldn't be there. That's mistake number one. And that enabled me to select this pull-down menu. Now, all these options, open application, close application, execute or run, exit to operating system, print settings, and exit the system. Most of them, or at least the ones that they deemed dangerous, were indeed disabled. But they did not disable the print settings dialog. I don't know why. Shouldn't have happened. So I can get this thing here. And this thing actually, since we have a printer and it's an XP machine, it's defined as a normal printer. And this little button here, the network button, actually enables you to add network printers by opening a Windows Explorer window. Now, that window is restricted. Okay, you can't just walk around and do whatever you want. Of course, since this is a touch screen, the first thing you want to get is an on-screen keyboard, right? Windows System 32, osk.exe, on-screen keyboard, you can type stuff. It's great. But no, this will only look for network printers. And the only thing you can actually do with it is just browse around the directory tree, which is not useless, but not very effective. However, another problem that they had here was that the touch screen was fully compatible with human interface device, which meant that if you put your finger and you held it for 2 seconds, that would count as a right click. Now, if you right click a directory name, you get the option to open it in a new window. And the new window is no longer restricted. This is a Windows Explorer with which I can do pretty much whatever I want. So now the fun begins. Now, I don't know if you can see at this stage already, the volume label of drive C starts with 4580. That's the prefix of an Israeli-issued Visa card. I don't know why. Could have been me, I'm denying, but you can see the local drive and a network share. And I can do whatever I want. So I start browsing the system. And I come across directories with interesting names, such as credit, right? Now, bear in mind, I'm the white hat, okay? But when I do this, I'm the black hat. I need to get to the same result, and then instead of exploiting it, I report it. So I see credit, I dive right in, and I see a list of files, and they're all called the same way. They're called tran, and then B in a number. You guys want to guess what tran stands for? Transaction, right? So you drag and drop one of those onto Notepad, and bingo. Unencrypted text file containing the data from the magnetic stripe of your card. Right? So you have credit card numbers, expiration date, whatever they have there on the card, right? Now then you ask yourself, okay, so I'm this dangerous hacker, I got this on the screen, I want to take it with me. So obviously I can take a photo, right? I took that with my little point-and-shoot camera. A few problems with that. One, you have a limited bandwidth, right? You can take one shot at a time, not a lot of data there. But it's also kind of conspicuous. As I was taking this very photo this is actually from the disclosure document, I had the cinema manager come up to me and say, well, excuse me, can I help you? So I just looked back at him and say, no, that's okay, there's a security problem here and I'm working on it. And he thinks for a second and he says, well, thanks for coming, there's also a problem with your printer, if you can look at that. So as far as he was concerned, I was actually working for that company. Now pay attention, I did not lie, I did not say I was working. I said the exact same thing I was doing. I was looking into a security problem. Now, if I had told him the whole device needed replacement, he would have helped me carry to my car. Just saying. But what else can I do with, what do I have in my possession? A printer, right? So why just not print it and take it back home? Now, a little anecdote. First time I did that, I kind of forgot that Notepad has line wrapping mode, which is not set by default. So I got 6 feet of ticket with credit card numbers. And that was very conspicuous. Cinema manager wasn't there at the time. And that was it. So at this stage, 2 things we can say. One, this is enough to go for a disclosure. All right? This is bad. Now, they're not breaking the law. Okay? They're being assholes or careless, but they're not breaking the law. They're breaking PCI regulations, but they're not breaking the law. So they can, fix it. They're not very liable unless damage proven. And we said, you know what? If this is that bad, if they're that careless, let's stick around. And it doesn't take long before we get to our next finding. You guys can see what it says there? The game RSA private key. Once again, in text file. So we printed that as well, took it home, scanned it with a normal flatbed scanner, and then used an off-the-shelf OCR software to read that. Now, because this is a movie ticket, this is the tear line, and it kind of screwed up 3 letters every now and then. I had to manually fix that, but at the end of the process, this is what we get. The complete key, the private key, and the certificate. So now, not only can I steal credit card numbers, I can actually bill them. And when you get billed, it's going to show a $2,200 cinema ticket. And you're going to have to give some explanations to your significant other. So, let's sum this one up. The purpose of the device was to print movie tickets and maybe let you choose a seat if you buy the ticket now. What we actually got from it was credit card data and encryption. Now, what sophisticated hacking tool did we use for this? One finger. Okay? One finger. Moving on to point-of-sale devices. Everybody's been talking about that ever since the Target breach, and ever since that got into the public's attention, you keep seeing more and more and more, because now security guys are actually looking for that. No one even thought it was possible. Now people are looking into that. This is actually a photo I took last year as I was doing a roadshow with customers. And if you take a closer look, you can see this little sticker. Now, I know that in the name of being politically correct, you call waiters servers, but they don't need an IP address. Okay? This is the IP address of this device. It's called server 3. I live in Tel Aviv. It has a nice weather, pretty much what you have here right now. So a lot of businesses get a little allocated space on the sidewalk to put their tables, their seats, and a point of sale device. This is very efficient for the business. The waiter or the server doesn't waste a lot of time going back into the kitchen, issuing your order. They punch it right in, then you get your check when you ask for it. It's all very nice, very efficient. And at the end of the day, of course, since this is outside the business, they will haul everything back in and lock the place up, right? Now, what is the one thing they leave on the street? Any guesses? This. The wall port. And since their business is serving you coffee and not protecting your internet, no one is disconnecting the other end of the cable from the switch, right? So you're exposing your local area network to the outside world. So, of course, I see that. The only reason I'm not in jail is because I chose the right side of the law. But I just show up with my laptop and then network cable in the middle of the street, just plug in. You need to be able to give a good story. Social engineering really helps here, so don't try this at home unless you know how to get away. I start by listening, right? Intelligence gathering. I want to see what's going on. I don't even need an IP address. I don't want to transmit anything. I'm just listening. And this is what I see. This is a screenshot from my Wireshark, and you can already see a lot of information. This is just one screenshot. It was a longer file, and you can see IP addresses and protocols and a lot of stuff. And this is what I'm working on, right? So I found a number of servers, and now I want to see what each one of them does. So the fact that I saw file sharing in the Wireshark lets me try that. I'm saying, okay, so one of these devices is sharing a file. Let's just ask. No, I'm not hacking. I'm not doing anything dangerous. This is my MacBook. The OS X just lets you do that. In Windows, you would do \\\, and then put in the IP. And of course, the response that you get is, you want to sign in as a guest or as a registered user. Now, since I'm not a registered user, I said that I'm a guest. Now, what you would expect to get is permission denied. However, not in this case. I got full access to both hard drives on the device. Now, the reason this one is ratted out is because we haven't finished the disclosure, so I don't want to give out their name. In any case, I don't think they operate outside of Israel, so you might be safe. I started looking around because that helps you establishing the attack vector. It relates a little bit to what the previous talk was about. When you're an aggressor, you don't just come with like a purpose, and if it doesn't work, then you go home. You come as an aggressor. That means you're aggressive. If one thing doesn't work, you try another. If that doesn't work, you try another. And the first thing you do is gather intelligence because you want to succeed at the first time. So you want to get as much information as you can because it's going to tell you what software they have installed, because maybe you have some tools taking advantage of vulnerabilities, or maybe you need to do something, or maybe you want to not waste your time looking around the hard drive like I did before. You want to know exactly where to go. So we start looking around. And I find these files. These are rather large database files, 93 megabytes. Now, that could be anything. It could be previous year's sales record. It could be customer record. It could be supplier record. If I'm your competition, this may very well help me drive you out of business, right? Admin database. Not big, but very interesting. Maybe it has some passwords. And of course, once again, trend B001. So just like before, if you drag that one onto a text editor, you get all these. 5326, that's the Israeli MasterCard, expiring September 2015. Once again, text file, not encrypted. And this time, I don't need to print it and scan it. I can just copy the whole thing right onto my computer and walk away. After that, I create a file list. Now, theoretically, I could copy the whole thing and just go home. But I do that as a good guy, remember. I don't want to create additional trouble. I want to fix the problem. So any piece of information that I take outside of that network is now in my responsibility. I don't want to expose the customer. This, by the way, was done, of course, with permission. Otherwise, it's illegal. But I don't want to expose the customer to more risk. So at this stage, I just take a file list instead of copying the whole thing. Because you don't know if you can come back again. So you want to just copy the whole thing and go home and deal with it. And after scanning through the devices, I got to this IP address, which was alive but did not offer flash. So my first guess was ADSL. These are small businesses. I think 4 of them can fit in this one. They all use ADSL modems to communicate to the outside world. So I tried to access the web UI, and what I got was this. Now, this is actually HTML, but for some reason, it was served as a text file. Now, has anyone ever looked at the HTML source code of their ADSL modem? So this is what it looks like. You have the panel has 3 components. You have the top line, which usually carries the version and the manufacturer, and on the left there will be a menu bar, and on the bottom right is the actual content. So I look here, and it says /CGI bin port step. I'm like, okay, let's directly go there. And what I get is this. It turns out this is the printer. When you ask for the check, that's the printer. Now, theoretically, there's not a lot to do with this. If I were an asshole, I could even see mess. The whole purpose of being a bad guy is not getting caught. You don't want to attract anybody's attention. Pardon my French, by the way. I'm Israeli. We have no manners. Probably going to happen some more. But there's one more piece of information here. That's the IP address of the gateway. So one piece at a time, I'm building the puzzle, which is called the network topology of this business. Now, actually, it turns out we already had that information. If you go back to the screenshot, the Wireshark, if you look at this line, you will see a device that by MAC address is identified as a D-Link. They make communications equipment, modems, switches, routers. So I could have guessed. But even if I didn't do that, I just got that piece of information. And naturally, like every other DSL router, it has access control. Anybody would like to guess the name and the password? Admin, right? Now, there are 2 things you can do right now, 2 very dangerous things. The first one is to enable remote administration. And that means that I can go home and just log on from my house or any other place. And once I'm into this box, which is running BusyBox, which is a flavor of Linux, I have an IP address inside their network. I can do whatever I want. But that's a menu option. And if for some reason their sysadmin looked at it, he could have paid attention. But what if, instead of doing that, I just changed one of the DNS servers? No one would notice that. And that would mean that every DNS query got routed through me, which means I have full control of the IP addresses that they're getting. So now their entire traffic can be routed through my server. Now remember that this is all done with permission, okay? Just a second. Now, let's sum this one up. The point of sale device is actually a cash register, and some of them, depending on the setup, they have a back office. In the back office, they have a little server. Some services offer the business owner to connect from the outside world, even open a VNC session on the POS devices, depending on the vendor. What we got was, once again, credit card data and customer database. What sophisticated hacking tools did we use this time? Off-the-shelf Mac tool. Free software. Once again, no certified ethical hacker training needed here. Just common sense. Now it turns out that this LAN port problem is all over. All over. This is a medical clinic where I go to back in Tel Aviv. And it turns out that in most businesses that I've visited, the hour clock, the attendance system, is sitting on the corporate network. And almost always, the LAN port is right in front of your face. So all I have to do is disconnect this cable and connect my computer. And maybe the port next to it is hot. And you know what? It's rather conspicuous if you stand in the middle of the street with a laptop connected to the port. Who knows what this device is, this little TP-Link? This is a router. It has an Ethernet port, a USB socket for 3G modem, and it has a wireless interface built in. All I have to do is connect this to the LAN and turn it into an access point. This is running Linux, OpenWRT, right? And the problem with this one is that it requires power over USB. But this guy has a big brother with a 5-hour battery. And it's white. I put it in a clinic. No one suspects. I brand it with the clinic name. Even the sysadmin will hesitate before looking. And then I could just connect to it from wherever I want, anywhere in the world, and do my thing. This is a hospital in Tel Aviv. Now, hospitals have 2 different wireless networks. One is for the patient, right? You're in the hospital, you want Wi-Fi. The other one is for the medical staff. And it is using the strongest encryption they have. But what good is the strongest encryption if the wall port is in front of me? All I have to do is disconnect the access point from the LAN and connect one of my devices. And that's it. I'm inside the network. No encryption, nothing. And this is an ATM at a shopping mall. And in case you were wondering, or even letting you know, this is the ATM. Now, maybe it's encrypted. Maybe it's not. These things are most likely running XP. I can maybe unplug it, replug it, and maybe feed it something. I don't know, man in the middle, PXE boot, whatever, you name it. But I shouldn't have any access to it at all. Now, this is behind the ATM. No one's even going to see that. I can leave that device for ages. No one will ever know. And of course, look around you. Yesterday, on my way back to the room from the party, as I always do, I was walking around with my eyes open, and a few things I want to share with you. My choice and promotions, that's sort of their frequent flyer thing. They have these, you know, these, they're right across the escalator as you go down. These are connected to the casino network. I don't know exactly what they do because I tried swiping all kinds of cards, didn't take any. But look at this. That's right over here. And right over here, there's a guard. That's good. I don't know. Now, maybe because of my prosthetic, people are afraid to talk to me. And it's good. I use it for my job, really. I'm more likely to get away with stuff than you. But still, look at this. There's an empty port. And it's inside. Once again, I put this device there. No one will ever find out. Coming back to ATMs, this is the ATM room. If you go like back to the lobby, this is right next to the fountain, right? Same thing. You look behind it, ATM. This one says ATM 1, ATM 2. You can pick. Once again, I don't know where that leads. This, by the way, is not an IP address. It looks like one, but it's not. Serial number. And you never know, right? And worse yet, and this just happened now, during lunch. I was sitting at the bar. Oh, sorry, this is the lobby. They have those around. I don't really know if they're connected to anything. You can find them all over. Maybe they're wired, maybe not, whatever. I was sitting at the bar, and this was in front of me. This is their point-of-sale device on their bar, made by Agilsys, whatever, right? You guys saw that? Anybody paid attention to this? This is the control stand for the slot machine in the casino. And just to show you how much people don't take security responsibly, a casino is one of the most monitored spaces on earth. They have more cameras than customers in the casino. And each one of these devices is right under a camera. And since I didn't like the photos that I took yesterday with my iPhone, I came back again with my point-and-shoot camera. And I took this right now, right? So it's the same manufacturer. It's the same system. So maybe it's using the same network. Maybe not, but what if? What if? The bar is not secured as the casino. So maybe I could get inside. And staying with hospitals, my dad had a little thing. He got admitted. Nothing very serious, but you know, he got admitted. We all have to go visit. And I see this in his room, and this has a credit card reader, so like I said, this will always attract attention. If you have a credit card reader, hide it from me. And this is a device that lets you watch television, listen to music, watch video on demand, and browse the internet. You're a captive audience. You're not going anywhere, so why not offer you stuff for an exaggerated price? It's not like you can choose something else. And this has a touchscreen, a credit card reader, and earphones, so you don't bother the guy in the bed next to you. But it also has a USB port. Right here. Not one, but 3. And I'm like, right, Dad, you can bet on me coming tomorrow as well. And I did. And then I went home and I got my travel mate USB keyboard. Never leave home without it. And I connect it, and the numlock is working, but nothing else does. So I know the device recognizes the keyboard, but it won't let it do stuff. I'm like, okay, try stuff. You know, if it's Linux, I try different panels. Nothing works. What can I do? This is the power cable. I just unplug it, replug it, and then I press F11 like crazy. What do I get? The BIOS setup, which is not password protected. Now, you could argue that really this doesn't mean much. But once I can do that, there's another thing I can do, which is to boot some other device. Why should I boot from their hard drive? I have my little USB drive with me, and when I boot from that one, this is what I get. My favorite penetration testing, you can see how old this is because now it's called Kali. Never leave home without it. I have it right here in my bag in 2 flavors, 3 and 5. And turns out that their partition is also Linux. So I just mount it. And now I have full read and write access to their entire hard drive, which is kind of cool. But now I'm facing a problem. I look at the files and I see that they are configured to DHCP, but I'm not getting an IP address. Now, as much as the device itself is interesting, I want to work big, right? I want to crawl the network. And I can't because I don't have an IP address. So I look at the files and then I find a problem. They're actually using 802.1x. They have LAN encryption, which is kind of nice. I have to admit, I don't see that often. So for a moment there, they had my respect. Just for a moment. And why was it just for a moment? Because this is Linux. So 2 files to the left, I got all I needed. All the credentials for the 802.1x. Okay? So I just copied these 2 files to my etc network, IF down, IF up, and I now have an IP address on the encrypted network, which is a good thing. So the first thing that we do, we want to go for disclosure. So we check the external IP, because the thing that we want to prove is that we can connect remotely, because you have access to the device, you're in the hospital, but you want to show that you can do it from the outside world, assuming I leave a tool of some sort. And then we open a reverse shell. This is actually one of my employees back at headquarters typing stuff on the local computer through Netcat. And then I keep looking around and I discover this address. Now, I have time, right? My dad's not going anywhere, neither am I. And when I try browsing that, I get this. So this is the actual user interface that you saw in the first photo. Only this time you can see that it's in a browser window in my operating system. This is not the full screen thing that you saw in the beginning. And everything works. Whatever you click, it works, right? It's a very simple interface, and it works. But if it says client, let's try something else. And there you go, a list of all the scripts. Later, we even found credentials to this server. Now, a hospital has, I don't know, 20, 300 beds. They all have one of these devices. They all surf to the same server. This is a classic watering hole attack. All I have to do is change one of these script files. Maybe I don't even need credentials. Maybe they have a vulnerability in the script, because I doubt that these things get maintained. But if I infect that server, I will have infected between 25 and 3,000 different computers. That's a very nice botnet of people swiping credit cards because they have nowhere else to go. So what happens next? My dad got discharged, which under the circumstances was a good thing. So we lost access to the device, right? So now we can just go for the disclosure. However, as we were about to do that, my manager's mom didn't feel well. They went to a hospital in a different city. And it turns out that they have the exact same device there, right? So now we're just waiting for someone to get sick so we can continue the research. So, summing up. The device purpose is a smart TV for hospital patients, right? And what we got from it was network encryption keys and possible access to other networks. Now, remember the what if thing. This is a network inside a hospital. Maybe it's connected to other networks. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I didn't have enough time. But it's the concept of me being able to get full access to a password-protected network. That's the big thing here. And what did we use? Off-the-shelf stuff. Really, guys, you don't need an export license to get any of this. Right? And on February, I was flying to the Dominican Republic to present at another conference. And I got to the boarding gate 40 minutes early. And I was bored. Should be called boring gate. But in any case, they have these devices right there. And it has a credit card reader, which naturally attracts my attention. And I started looking around. And these devices, pretty much like in a hospital, they're designed to sell you stuff. You can buy food from the restaurants. You can buy stuff from the duty-free stores. And they will actually bring it over to you or ship it to you, whatever it is. And the first thing that I try, I'm like, okay, I need to escape the interface. But I can't. This is a touch screen, and I can't escape the interface. But then I remember the hospital, and I just, crawl under this thing. And I get this. Once again, this is an all-in-one PC with 4 USB ports. Now, USB ports are completely disableable. I just invented a word. You can disable them from inside your operating system. This is hardening the device. No one bothered doing that. So once again, me and my little travel buddy, the USB keyboard, I plug it in, and I discovered that I'm the administrator on the Windows XP. Right? So I start looking around, and I get an IP address, and I can even access Google. So this is connecting to the internet, right? So I could put a tool here, like the proof of concept I did at the hospital, and I see 74 other devices on the same network. So this is just probably that terminal at JFK. This is terminal 5. If you fly JetBlue, it's there. Feel free to play with it. Just make sure you don't get caught. One more thing that I do is traceroute, because this will tell you the parts of the network topology. We'll see how many points are between you and the internet, how many gateways. Helps you understand what you're looking at. It'll also tell you the ISP, which is sometimes good to know. And then I keep looking around, and apparently they have Ultra VNC installed on all of these devices, so they can control them remotely. But they have encryption, RC4.key. Right? So once again, for a short little moment, they had my appreciation. For a short little moment. Now I try to type it, because I was expecting a password because it's VNC, and it's not, it's a binary file. So I try to type it and I get this. Now, here's a little challenge for you. I'm on Windows XP. How can I hex dump a file? Who's over 30? Who used DOS? Who knows what debug is? There you go. Debug can hex dump. And as you can see here, this is a 128-bit RC4 key for authenticating the VNC, right? Now another challenge, by the way, the reason you see these photos, they're rather good quality, was because I realized that I didn't want to take photos with my camera because it doesn't look good. I was just taking screenshots. And here's another challenge for you. It appears that MS Paint was not installed on the computer. Now, yes, I know I'm an administrator and I could install it, but I don't want to leave any trace, right? I want to just do my thing and run away to another country, which was what I was about to do. How can I capture the screenshots if I don't have MS Paint? Any ideas? Nice. Nice. If you're looking for a job, let me know. WordPad or Write. Anybody still remembers what that is? Anybody ever used it? Very few hands here. This is actually the built-in word processor they have with Windows. It's very basic, but it works. And in fact, it'll let you paste images from the clipboard. And then you can just save it as an RTF file. So since I had enough USB ports, I had my keyboard connected, my mouse connected, and now a USB drive connected. And I just took many, many, many screenshots, saved them as RTF files, which I later used for this presentation. And then I started looking at my default gateway. Now you get the make and model of the router they're using. You get a lot of information here. I don't even know why this is accessible before authentication. You need authentication for pretty much anything else. Uplink configuration, Ethernet configuration, traffic statistics. That does require an authentication. And I tried the default password. Of course, I could Google it because I had internet. And the default password didn't work. But this is a lot of information. This should not be just voluntarily given to whomever it is. So, the device purpose was airport, entertainment, and shopping. What I got from it? VNC encryption keys, possible access to other networks. I didn't have enough time. I had to board my flight. Remember, I only had a 40-minute window until takeoff or boarding, whatever. And it's a potential botnet. If I'm an administrator, and they probably make these whole systems the exact same, right? And if not, then I have the encryption keys. I could just VNC my way to any one of those and install whatever I want. And if people swipe their credit cards, I can steal that. Now, in that particular model, since I did have enough time to play with it, the credit card reader is actually just defined as a keyboard. If you open Notepad and swipe your card, you will get the content. It's just typed in as if it were typed in by a person. And the super hacking tool that I used, actually just the keyboard. The USB drive was because I wanted to treat you guys nice with nice photos and not screenshots with a camera. All right? So, conclusion. Local networks are rarely as monitored and protected as your corporate network. How many of you track or monitor traffic inside your organization? Do you check? Of course, I would have been disappointed if you didn't raise your hand. How many of you check, for example, for open shares on desktops? How many of you check desktops talking to each other? How many of you check who's accessing certain resources, right? Certain databases. Do you check that? And do you even monitor it? Because firewalls, in most of the cases, are set to only log the problematic transaction. If your firewall had an alert, it'll be logged. But if it went through the rule table, you don't even know what happened, right? No one is looking at that. Everybody is looking like a sentry, looking at the perimeter gateway, looking outside. Or in the case of certain products, looking also at the outgoing traffic, looking for bot traffic. There's also this line of products. Many devices that are publicly accessible, they do not get hardened. If your device is going to be touched by anyone else other than you must assume they're malicious. You need to harden the device. And there are plenty of documents over the internet. Some mentioned yesterday, the SANS, how to harden your device. For example, I was just staying at a hotel 2 days ago. They had this nice flash element computer in the room. It was a Hilton. Of course, I tried to hack it, but they did this themselves. The BIOS was password protected. The USB port did not let me connect the keyboard and use it to do other stuff. Okay, so basic hardening. You must assume, let's make it simple. You must assume that the next person touched that device is me. So unless you want your company in my next presentation, although I do try to disclose names, unauthorized access will lead to something. Remember, you have no record of that. And compromising a device on an internal network is a lot worse because of the first thing. Because when you're inside a corporate network, by default, you're trusted. You are trusted. And even if you're not trusted per se, you can listen. Now, either I compromise your device, in which case I will even take care of a network access control device. I'm your device. I'm sitting on your device. Now, you don't even know that something happened. And now, I took over the point of sale. But even if I just use the wall port to connect to the network, if I'm not broadcasting, and if you don't have a network access control device, all I have to do is just listen to traffic. You would be surprised to see how much valuable data goes on the wire. So, it's not all about cyber. Yeah, you do need to protect yourself because you know to be attacked from cyber. But when someone attacks you through physical access, the extent of the damage that they can perform is significantly big. Question? Yes. That is true. You don't even need to buy them. You just get bad network cable, you chop it up, and you break the little thingy on the top. That thingy have a name. Thingy. Okay. You break the thingy, and then without a pocket map, you can't pull it out. But I will argue that you need to have a complete map of network ports in your organization. And if there is not a particular reason for a port to be connected to your network, then it must be disconnected. Then yes, it does create an overhead for IT. But it's the balance of what happens in. Yes? That's scary. They did not. They completely ignored me. Actually, I didn't put it in this presentation, but this company also has a range of products that they use for bars, where you can just order stuff from an iPad. And I was traveling, I wanted to watch the news, but they didn't have Safari, they took it out. They wanted to restrict you. But they had the TiVo application. And the TiVo application opens the browser with the address line visible. So I just, browse to whatever I want. So I reached them out and they just relax. Close my eyes. I like scuba diving because there are no water. It helps. Yes. Of course, making these presentations, educating. Most people that see this, they tell me, I started seeing that stuff. So that's good. We're out. If you have an embarrassing question, you can reach later. I don't want to ask everybody. I've done that before. Feel free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Inbar, and I apologize that I did not get to announce you. I do have a set of announcements for the room. If you guys can hang out for just a second, of course I may